All right, well, this is Art Viewing Adventures. We are kind of getting started here, and folks are joining. And who else do we have? So we have Emily and Ron Horry. So Emily's joined, Ron's joined. They are connecting. This is Art Viewing Adventures. I'm Rodney Paul, and we are waiting for our guest, Don Ross, to join. And we're going to be looking at art today, but it's also going to be a very dog-friendly program. And Nikki, what's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Dulce.
Dulce.
It's really Dulcinea from Don Quixote, but we call her Dulce for short.
What does that? Does that mean sweet or something?
Sweet, but she's not sweet. She can't hear, and she's old, and she's got arthritis.
Oh, well, so this is kind of perfect because, you know, Art Viewing Adventures is part of a community living campaign, which serves seniors. And usually when we talk about seniors, we're thinking about, someone's trying to call me. Oh, I can't take that. Okay. We think about senior human beings, but also we've got some senior dogs involved, and I'm going to go ahead and share my slides so you can see, you know, this is Shadow. And when I was in the gallery, Shadow came in. Shadow was very into this abstract art that we're going to be talking about today.
So cute. So cute.
Yeah. Shadow is also deaf and also pretty much a very barky dog. There was a lot of barking going on. I think Shadow was pretty excited about the paintings that we saw and we're going to talk about today.
She's so cute. Is she part border collie?
I don't know. Maybe Donald. I don't know if Don knows. All I know is this is a really art-oriented dog who was
Remember Blue Dog? I remember Blue Dog when my kids were growing up. Blue Dog was so popular because he would count. He would count online. Remember that?
I don't know about Blue Dog. I knew there were Blue Dog Democrats.
Oh, yeah. No, Blue Dog is from the 90s when my children were little, and he would teach them how to add. They'd say, add 2 and 3, Blue Dog, and he would bark 5 times.
This dog doesn't do math. This dog is into art. So this dog was kind of engaging with the art, looking deeply, and we'll see a little bit of Shadow in this presentation. So we are almost at 1 o'clock, and then we'll officially kick off Art Viewing Adventures today, talking about this Abstract Notions exhibition at the an.ä.log Gallery, which is in the Mission District. Hey, Don, how are you today?
Doing well.
So Don is joining us. He's in the gallery, so we can even maybe get close-ups of some of the art as we talk about it. And we are at 1 o'clock. So Nikki, go ahead and kick us off.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How are you? Nice to see you. It's a gorgeous day out, by the way. So it'd be great to get out later in the day. So we're the Community Living Campaign, and and Jennifer also is part of the Community Living team. She's our tech. Hi, Jennifer. So we're here, and we are an advocacy group, advocacy and activities for seniors and people with disabilities in San Francisco. So we're trying to bridge that digital divide. We provide a lot of tech support for seniors, even giving them or loaning them devices and teaching them how to use them. We have a 2-month calendar. So this is March and April. So it's online. I'll put the link online, and we do send out paper copies, for special people that want a paper copy like me. And we just do a lot of interesting stuff. We do writing groups online, and people share their experiences, and we do exercise online. We have exercise in person, just a lot of really great activities. And we've been around, I think, close to 20 years, 15 to 20 years. So it's a very good program for anybody, but we really strive to serve seniors and disabled people. I'll put the information in the chat. So welcome, Don and Rodney. Good to see you again. And the pup. I want to hear more about the puppy.
Yeah, because you were just saying, Nikki, that Community Living Campaign serves seniors, and you often think of seniors as being people, but this dog is Shadow. Shadow is 15 years old. I think her pet guardian was saying that's like over 100 years in people years. And Shadow was very enthusiastic about this exhibition. I'm joined by Don Ross. Don is the co-owner of the an.ä.log Gallery in San Francisco, and I'll show you guys where it is on the map. So it's very close to 24th Street Mission BART station. And Don, how long have you guys been there?
This April will be our 4th year.
Yeah.
So April of 2019, we opened in this tiny little garage in my friend's 1890 Victorian, which is a Victorian townhouse. It's 3 stories tall. And in the bottom, we had both wanted to have a gallery, but we couldn't afford, downtown space. So we kind of made our own gallery. And we've been open for almost 4 years now, showing a variety of work, mostly group shows that have themes.
Yeah, and this is our second time covering one of your shows. We also did one that had guides from the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and you and I, Don, have both been guides for SF MoMA. So kind of cool. So I've had a lot of fun coming to your gallery, but we're going to talk about this Abstract Notions exhibition and just kind of go through some of the works. And I'll go ahead and just give you guys a sense of what the gallery looks like. You can just walk right in. Again, if you're walking your dog, that's totally fine. Dogs are welcome in the gallery. It's a really, really nice space. And we'll come back to this artwork by is it Britt Henze or Henz?
Henze.
Britt Henze.
And her Instagram handle is Lady Henze. So she's a lady.
So she's an aristocrat who dabbles in art. I thought I'd show this. This is kind of like a nice little video I made of, there's some sculpture in addition to the paintings that are on the wall. And I didn't write down the name of this artist, Don. Can you tell me a little bit about this artist?
Sure. This is Paul Gassaway, and I discovered him when I took a trip to Merced when I was scouting for artists for a Valley show. We wanted to feature artists from the Central Valley. So I went to the Central Valley to Merced and met with a lot of artists and made selections and brought back a whole bunch of really cool work that was sort of surreal by nature. And we called the show Far Out, not only because it was far out to get there, it took about 4 hours to get there, but the work was kind of far out in the sense that it was a little surreal. So it was a little double entendre. I met Paul by going to a gallery there. He had one work, and he's just starting out as an artist. He's an iron worker by trade, and now he's doing these really fine metal sculptures.
Yeah, I really like this one. And then you can see when we see it move, you can see the shadow play. Whose idea was it to light it?
That actually was by accident. I had the cube there on that pedestal, and I had a light above it to give it some light. And when I lifted it to paint it, I was going to paint the top and spruce it up. I saw that there were these amazing shadows. And I thought, I think I like the shadows most of all. So we decided to hang it. And it catches a gentle breeze in the gallery and it spins on its own a lot of the time, but you can touch it and move it. And somebody actually is buying this piece and they don't have any more room on their walls. So they're really excited to bring it home and hang it themselves. So it will be suspended in their space too.
So it's a kind of a sculpture in a mobile. And of course, that brings to mind Alexander Calder. We had that Calder Picasso exhibition at the De Young, which was also very well lit and some great shadow play in that. So that's kind of fun. Let's go back to Britt Henze and talk about her works. So I want people to look at this, and I guess my question to you is, what do you notice about it? What's going on? What is the interplay of maybe the colors, maybe the shapes? Any, where does this take your mind? And maybe Don, do you want to answer that?
Well, for me, I know Britt well. I've known her for about 3 years, and she's a graffiti artist. Really, she's a muralist. I'm not divulging anything that she wouldn't divulge herself, but she's in recovery, and it's really important that her work be sort of a grounding force in her life. So she has two different styles. One is very loose and one is very methodical or rigid. We're seeing a proportion of this mostly in the rigid style, which is done very meticulously with strips of paint to mask off areas. And then she uses spray paint. So she started out as a tagger and a graffiti artist in the streets and doing murals. And now she's working in her studio, making individual pieces. But what's interesting is that in this particular work, she's melding those two styles in the sense that she's got a rigid ground, and then she's doing a little bit of a spray to make those drips on purpose. So those drips are very intentional. So I just really love her work because I think she's really progressed to an amazing style. I can show you one more in the gallery here, if this makes any sense, where you can see just a little bit of the spray paint being applied. And I was telling Rodney, there's a video on Instagram where she's about to apply the spray paint. It's the last thing that she does on the pieces. And for her, it's a real tense moment because if she gets it wrong, she's got to start all over again.
Oh, I got to check that out. I mean, I really love that story, Don, because, we often think of artists as just like they come up with ideas, they execute them, and we don't often think about the risk, that sometimes it's like a high wire act. The artist that comes to mind for me is Agnes Martin, whose work kind of approaches perfection, but she was known to destroy many of her works. She had very, very high standards for herself. And so this is, I don't know, maybe a little bit of that, but in a totally different way with all these colors. I also feel like maybe this piece could be in conversation with like someone like Frank Stella, his very geometric designs, like taking that and then taking that to a new place. Did you get that, Don?
I'm so sorry. I'm having a hard time understanding with my sound today. I'm in a cavernous space and I think it's my fault. Can you repeat that last question?
Oh, I was saying that it was reminding me of Frank Stella in his geometric artworks. Like this would be maybe in conversation with that. She's doing something very different with these drips, but I could imagine you could show her with him in my mind.
Yeah, Frank Stella with those diagonal lines really comes to mind. But you mentioned earlier an artist like Jackson Pollock also comes to mind, because Jackson Pollock was known for sort of splattering his paint around, even on working on the floor and taking a paintbrush or a stick full of paint and dripping it and making really haphazard seeming effects. They called him Jack the Dripper. So I like that at the end of her session, well, it takes a couple days to make those stripes and those diagonals. But at the end of her session, she's sort of channeling Jackson Pollock with the drips and being very careful where she's got her aerosol spray can. She's using spray paint, And she's going in right in that perfect spot to make that drip. And drips, you can't really control them. Really, you can't control the drip. She's also letting go a little bit. She's letting the paint kind of take over, and hopefully it won't drip too far, right? But it depends on the pressure that she's applied. So what she'll do is she'll practice on another sheet of paper right before she's about to make that final mark.
Yeah, I like the tension between order and disorder, which, I mean, you related that she's in recovery, and that's sort of something she's contending with in her own life.
Yeah.
Not to read too much into this, but I often find that interesting. Like, some artists really do want to introduce an element of chance to their art, and that's what she's done with this.
Yeah. Like I said, she's got two styles. One is very loose, lots of spray paint, circles, crazy moves. This is when she's in her studio. She says she's at her happy place in her studio, and she's concentrating, and she's in her happy place, and her life feels good, and she goes to painting instead of alcohol or drugs. She said this herself before. So it's a way to like really go inward and be strong from within, really appreciate what she's doing.
Because Jackson Pollock was not in recovery, and that was a great tragedy at the end of his life. Let's move on. Nikki, go ahead.
Yeah, is this one unit, or is this like 4 units that she put together?
One unit.
Wow, the concentration.
Yeah.
ADD and do that.
And we're showing you these images, but if you get a chance to go to the gallery, and Don, you're open like Saturday afternoons is a good time to go, right?
Yep, Saturday 12 to 6.
And I saw the map, you're right near the Victoria Bakery.
Yeah, right across the street.
So is it because, I remember all the turmoil about them closing, and then they were closed for so many years, and then we heard they were reopening. So is this on the, not the McDonald's side, the other side of Mission, correct?
True. It's on it's on Cap. So we're at Cap and 24th.
Okay.
So if you look outside, the Victoria Bakery is right there. And we're at Cap and 24th. So we're 2 houses in.
Okay.
It looks like this. It's an old Victorian.
Should we, when we go, Don, should we be stopping in the Victorian bakery and getting you something?
Yeah, for sure. Get me something sweet.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's all that's there, right?
I'll have to check that out. Let's move on to Chase Hobbitzell. And we have a bunch of his works. And they're kind of like, again, if you really like geometric shapes, if you like, I see a lot of order in this. And then I would say, again, I think of another modern artist that Chase is in conversation with, and it would be Joseph Albers, famous for Homage to the Square. And I have to say, I really love these. I love the progression of colors. I love how it almost suggests like a place, like a room or something. I find them surreal.
A little psychedelic.
Psychedelic.
There's definitely a vibrational quality to these. One of his favorite artists and influences is James Turrell, who's really a light artist, who really like creates these big rooms and has a light in it. And you can actually, it's very immersive. So what I like about a lot of his work is it feels like you could step into that space.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does suggest, and we're going to see another artist a little later on who's an architect. But if you told me that Chase Hobbitzell was also an architect, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. He's actually an art handler. So he works for a company that actually hangs artwork for people. He'll go
Wow.
to their homes and businesses and professionally hang artwork, like very expensive artwork. So he is a master craftsman. He makes his own frames as well. So he's used to framing work and working with a lot of artwork. So he has seen a lot of artwork, although he hasn't shown a lot of his own artwork. So this is really his first major group show.
Yeah, I was impressed with how the pieces work together. They are all sold separately, but like these two in the middle here, these are two separate works, but you know, they look like some kind of interesting set of eyeglasses, perhaps. You know, it'd be kind of fun to see them together. And then some of them, so a bunch of them are together. So I'll show you like this one. And where's the one with this one's really cool with this wood grain in the middle. Thought that was really cool to like the juxtaposition of the painting, the artwork, the very geometric orderly thing with the grain of the wood.
Yeah. That was it. That's his last painting that he made before the show. It's his recent artwork. And he is interested in showing a bit of the underpinning of the painting. So he's letting a little bit of the wood come through. He didn't paint over a portion of the wood. So it's interesting, technically.
Yeah, I know at SF Moment, there's some artists who do things like that. I'm thinking of that German artist on the 6th floor who has the wizard. Who am I thinking of? You know, that they want you to see their materials. They want you to see behind the screen, so to speak. And let's see.
A lot of artists are really interested in showing their process or showing the materials that make a painting. Chase's work is really meticulous. He'll do one color and then you know, he's taped it off, so it's like very finely taped, and then he'll let it dry, then he'll peel the paint off, and the lines are really sharp. It's almost like if you're doing trim in your house, you know, you want to use tape so that you don't bleed over into the other color. He's kind of doing the same thing, but with the light pink, for instance, that's one pass of pink. As it gets darker, he does another pass of pink over that. And then maybe the third one has 3 passes of pink. And the fourth one has 4 passes of pink. So it builds and builds and builds in color. And he's really a colorist. A lot of these artists in this show are what you would call a colorist, meaning that color is super, super important to them. And they're constantly mixing their colors to find the right shade of a certain tone, you know, certain color.
Yeah, this is the wrong show to go to if you're like into monochrome.
Yeah.
You gotta like vibrant colors. I mean, we were talking about how this suggests place. What do you think it'd be like to live in a house that was like painted like this? I think it'd be pretty interesting, you know?
Yeah. For instance, I could see this particular piece you have up on the screen being at a long, you know, at the end of a long hallway and almost transformative, like it takes you into that space. It kind of beckons you a little bit. It's really captivating in that sense. It's sort of reaching out to you and vibrating and asking you to join it.
Yeah. Is there like, how do you figure out the colors? Is there something mathematical about it? Like, you know, how do you know which shades should be make the right progression?
A lot of it's mixing. These are all custom colors. So he is mixing just the right amount of paint with maybe another color to get a tone. but not too far away from the original color, because it's kind of a gradient, if you will. It's like different shades of a lot of the same tones. So he's mixing his own paint to find just the right perfect color.
Yeah. Another artist who comes to mind looking at all these works is Ellsworth Kelly, who of course celebrates color. And it was kind of one of the first people to do that, to say, oh, I can just give you a panel that's just, you know, a really bright red in an interesting shape, and that's going to do it. And I remember seeing Ellsworth Kelly kind of compared to like jazz music, you know, like there's something musical, like this almost suggests, like these gradations suggest like a musical scale. And I kind of feel like Chase is doing that too.
Yeah.
So
I
these are
interviewed with him in his studio. His studio is in his garage. And I don't think he had any music playing, but I think he has said that music is important to him too. I'm not sure which type, but a lot of artists like to listen to music when they paint. It informs their work and inspires them.
yeah. And my question would be to Chase would be, what kind of music do you like to listen to?
I'll ask him.
Yeah.
It's now.
To me, it's probably some kind of new agey kind of instrumental. It wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be like punk rock or something. I'd be surprised if he was listening to punk when he made this stuff.
Pretty transcendental or new age or yeah, classical maybe even, because those lines are just so classical.
Although this could be, you could title this Stairway to Heaven, I think.
You could interpret it that way. And the neat thing about his work, and he doesn't have any bones about it, but you can hang, like for instance, this work, it's horizontal right now, but he puts hardware on the back, hooks, so that you could turn it if you want. You get tired of looking at it horizontally, you can turn it and hang it fresh in a different way and look at it a new way.
Yeah, well, that would be one thing it would have in common with like a Jackson Pollock, is you could do that with Jackson Pollock. And that's always the question we ask people at the museum is, you know, what would happen if we hung this upside down? Would it be the same? Would it be different? How many people would catch on to that? I like that idea. I like the idea that you can manipulate your art. You know, you can't really do that with Mona Lisa or, you know, something that's figurative. Unless you're Georg Baselitz, who like to paint people upside down.
Yeah.
Is he also a local guy?
Yeah, he lives in Oakland, Berkeley. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody in the show is local, right, Don?
Yeah, there's one artist, she lives in Lake Tahoe, California, Nevada, I guess on the border.
So Northern California.
Yeah.
So let's move on to this next artist. I'd say another colorist, although very, very different. These are her, it's a woman, right? Suzanne Malou, am I saying that right? Mailloux, of course. My French speaking skills are rusty. The double L. So you and I, yesterday, we were talking about, actually it was Saturday, we were talking about kind of the psychedelic character of these works. And you said, so this is something that is done on a computer, right? With, was it an Adobe?
Yeah. She creates all of her work mostly for Instagram, mostly to show it digitally on a screen. She works in Adobe Illustrator solely. So it's an Adobe, it's like Photoshop or Illustrator, but it's specifically Illustrator. She's 75 and she lives downtown in the Tender Knob, and she works on her computer in her home studio, and she makes these amazing designs from her imagination, just from playing. A lot of it's just playing. So she'll start with a certain line or color and then put another one down. And then sometimes she'll mirror images. So she'll do one half of it and flip it and mirror it, like this one. This is sort of a mirror effect. You can see that, sort of like a mirror. Like
Yeah. Yeah, there's a symmetry to it, right?
Yeah, that's a good word for it, symmetry. And then others are more, this is very symmetrical, this one. Looks like a diamond, it's like faceted, like a gemstone.
I think I have that.
More free form like this with gradients.
So I got that one.
Yeah.
Little crooked there. You know, I gotta say, Don, I mean, you mentioned that she's 75.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm a Haight-Ashbury tour guide, so I can't help going there with this. She would have been the perfect age to be part of that whole scene. And these things would all make wonderful psychedelic rock posters. You know, I could definitely see these being used for posters at like the Fillmore. Trying to think which bands this one might be, like a Jefferson Airplane kind of thing, or I don't know, Grateful Dead here perhaps, but I definitely see like that this would definitely fit in with all that.
Yeah.
So these are computer generated, right?
Yes.
And then they're put on wood. Like, where's the wood part?
Yeah, they're printed on a nice watercolor paper through an inkjet printer, like kind of a similar printer to a printer you might have at home with an inkjet printer, but on nice paper. And then they're mounted on the front of a wooden panel. They're glued on top of a panel.
Okay, so we don't see any of the wood. It covers the entire.
Yeah.
Frame. Yeah.
Wood's
Okay.
just around the edges.
Yeah.
And we're considering, like, you can see how deep there are. They're not that deep.
Mhm.
But we're thinking about maybe having these printed on metal in the future. It might look really slick.
That would be cool. But I think that'd be fantastic because they actually have a metallic kind of sheen to them. Yeah.
And then you just hang them. Just the entire block is hung. It doesn't need anything else. So they're just isolated on the wall. I think they'd be really cool. My room, as you can see, is kind of that color.
Oh yeah.
I'll order one of those. Thank you.
Which one, so, Nikki? I'll go to the one that has all of them. So which one would you want in your room? Which one would you prefer?
Well, the first one, that one.
Yeah.
That one matches that. Well, I mean, just only because it matches my room. Sorry.
I like that one because it almost looks like this is a magnification or something of these things down here. I see this echo going on here.
Kind of reminds me of those pharmaceutical commercials.
Some kind of really trippy drug, right?
Yeah, like take this.
Yes. Use only as directed. Yeah. Yeah, Suzanne's stuff. I have to say, I was kind of drawn to all of these. I loved almost everything I saw in the gallery, Don. And so it was a tough question, like which one would I want to get? And
that was my favorite, actually. I'm thinking about getting a copy of this one. I love it. So interesting to me.
And so what's going on here, Don?
Oh, good question. It's all the mind of Suzanne Mailloux.
Yeah. So it's some kind of trip or something.
On the line, Rodney, would want to ask any questions about any of the work we've shown so far? Or do you want
Let's see. Anybody out there? We don't have a ton of participants today. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to experience this as a recording, maybe because of the nice weather out there. And we got that storm coming in. But I
You're
see we
right.
have a couple people. Anybody have a thought they would like to share, a question or a comment? I think we might be a quiet bunch today.
I,
Um,
I texted Roger. I said, Roger, where are you? Let's see if he texted back. Let's see. No, haven't heard from Roger. Sorry. I wish he were here. He always has interesting
Yeah,
commentary. Yeah.
so
That's okay. We can just keep talking.
yeah, because this is going to end up on YouTube. So those of you out there in YouTube land, if you see this in time, you've got till April 15th to get to the gallery. And you might be thinking, well, April 15th, isn't that when I have to get something else done, my taxes? Actually, you don't, because they extended the deadline. I just figured that out a few days ago, which is a big relief for me.
Oh,
So go spend some time in an art gallery instead of working on your taxes, because they extended the deadline because of the rain and other storm activity.
they've extended it twice. I think it went up to May. Now it's into October, right?
Yeah, it's October 16th.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, if anybody wants to come to if they feel okay coming to a place where people are, we're going to have a closing party for this show on Friday, April 14th, and everybody's invited from
Oh,
4 to 8 p.m.
okay. Can we meet some of the artists then, Don?
Yeah, the artists will be here for the closing reception party. So you could talk to the artists if you're interested, get more insight into the work.
I want to meet Suzanne. I think she would be like
She's
way
lovely.
top of my list.
She's a character. I
And
love
Britt.
her.
Cool. So let's move on to this one. I just love this one. Now I want people to think about like, well, so how do you think this one was done? You know, we of course see the shapes. It's another square, another, again, making me think of Joseph Albers, the great homage to the square artist, but kind of taking it in new directions. But does anybody notice like what this thing is made up of?
It's dots.
It is dots.
Oh, dots.
Absolutely. So I have this close-up of it. It's what's the technique, Don, that the artist used?
So he buys a big wooden panel, and then he'll take a pencil and he'll graph out the lines where he wants to contain the dots. So he'll do, you can see sort of like little crosses, like a little lines.
Uh-huh.
And he takes his paint and he puts it in like a ketchup squeeze bottle, like you would squeeze ketchup on your hamburger, in one of those bottles with a little tip. And depending on the pressure that he squeezes the bottle will dictate how big the dot is. So he just goes methodically like drip, 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 and with the same color. He's meticulous. His work is really precise.
It's really precise, although I think if you look real closely in here, maybe it's the light, like there is going to be a little bit of variation in some of these dots, which you won't notice when you look at it from this view.
Yeah.
And again, it does make me think of Agnes Martin. And she has this work, Drift of Summer, which from a distance looks like graph paper, but she did it all by hand with a pencil, same kind of grid that this artist did. And I have to say, it's like one of my absolute favorite artworks. It's the very first thing I ever did for a tour at SF MoMA. And it's one of the artworks that's been on the wall continuously since SF MoMA reopened in 2016.
This piece is amazing because if you step back, 8-10 feet away from it, where I am now, it has a real vibrational effect again, like a lot of the pieces in the show do. But what's wonderful is you get up close, like you said, and you can see the texture of the dots. It's very surprising.
Yeah.
You don't expect that you're going to see this amount of detail and precision. But it's one of my favorite pieces too, because that pink and that yellow working together just really vibrates somehow. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great, great effect. And it was also very popular with Shadow.
Yes.
So you may be bidding against Shadow if you want to get this artwork.
Out of the dog, he approves.
Yeah, he was a very art-oriented pup. That was fun. Let's move on to Bill Bloomfield. And this work, which is Bill, is Bill the one that was the architect? That is the architect?
Yep. He went to Virginia Tech Technical School, studied architecture, and he's still very much interested in interior designs. I mean, he went sort of exterior to interior. So he studied architecture, but then he got into the idea of the inside of buildings he's really interested in, not just buildings themselves, but the inside. So he and his wife have a design firm called Mobley Bloomfield, and together as a husband and wife team, they design interiors. But he's told me, like, at the end of a busy day, one of his favorite things is to go into his studio and just paint. Like, he's been waiting all day to get to those paintings.
Yeah, this one is, it's interesting to think about him having that background and how this might relate to that. How this, even though it's two-dimensional, it might be suggesting something much more three-dimensional. I have to say that the title intrigued me. I don't know how to pronounce is that in maybe Swedish or Icelandic or something? But I guess it means icebreaker sisu. And I can definitely see the icebreaker once you read that this could be like the bow of a ship or something.
Yeah. I don't know what a sisu is. Do you know what a sisu is? I could look it up quick, but icebreaker sisu. He's got great titles. Some of his series is called the Color Mash series.
Oh yeah, I've got that one. Let's go to that.
Mashing colors together.
I'll move to that. Is that this one? No, it is.
That's one of them.
And then this one that's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And I really like this one. It was really just really grabs you, I think.
Yeah.
I have a friend, you and I have a mutual friend, a fellow art guide who just always gets excited about triangles. So there's like really great shapes in this one. Great color. He's another colorist, clearly. And I always think, like, well, how did they make these choices? Like, how did they know that brown and that yellow would work so well together? That's
color theory, I guess. Somehow he studied color theory and how colors work together and bounce off each other and relate to one another. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I just, I know that if I was to make these choices, I probably wouldn't make the ones that work. I'd put all these things together and then I'd be like, yeah, why is that not working? And this one does. So that's always a question I like to ask is like, what led the artist to make these choices? Yeah. And let's move on to these other pieces by, this is actually Scott Eidelman. So I put Scott in the middle of Bill. So we'll stick with Bill for a little bit. So we'll go back to this one. And I think you and I were talking about how this one really does suggest, there we can see it in your background. It suggests some kind of room, some kind of place. You almost see the floor in a wall. Where else does this take you, Don? What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, it definitely has a structural feel to it. In fact, the one right next to it, I'll show that one because I really relate to this one being sort of a space. I sort of feel like the orange parts are like steps to the gray landing, and there's a building. I don't know. It's very architectural, this one, I think.
Yeah. Another thing I liked about it was the way the paint, the brush strokes in here are really intriguing, really kind of fascinating. Like you get really drawn in and enjoy that, I think.
Completely smooth. This blue is completely smooth, but intentionally he's made these diagonal brush strokes. He's showing you his brush strokes here, and then the green brush strokes go up and down, completely smooth orange, and then horizontal strokes with the paint. So it's interesting the decisions he's making, but they play off each other really well.
Yeah. I mentioned Ellsworth Kelly earlier. I think he's the one, Bill Bloomfield is the one who I think I would sit him next to Ellsworth Kelly at any kind of dinner party I was going to have, because I think the two of them would have a lot of cool things to say to one another.
Yeah.
These are Ellsworth Kelly kind of colors, I think. I've always thought, by the way, that SF MoMA's red, their signature red color, I always thought that must come from Ellsworth Kelly. It seems like it's the same red as he has in his pieces on the fourth floor, and it's really orange, I guess. It's very similar to this color too.
Yeah.
But maybe the museum needs to have Bill Bloomfield in their collection. I said it, not you, Don.
Yeah, I'm too close to it, but good to hear.
And then, oh yeah, we saw that one. And then we should go to Scott Eidelman now. He had some really interesting, he seems like he has a real range in his work. So it's acrylic ink on paper. I couldn't read what type of paper it was, but it was really kind of an intriguing kind of almost like a watercolor kind of feel to it.
Yeah, definitely. He's another one who well, it's acrylic ink, watercolor on watercolor paper. So it's a very absorbent paper. It takes water and color really well. It soaks into the paper at the time of application. So if we're looking at this one, he wanted you to feel, well, for instance, if you look in the center of the piece, you can see almost white. And then, but it's a very faint pink right next to the reds that you're pointing to. So again, it's like one layer of that pink.
Yeah.
Second stripe has two layers of that same color. So he's building up the paint. And as he does that, it gets darker. But by doing so, he's sort of creating this beautiful gradient where you actually get tricked into thinking that this is a volume, that this has three-dimensional quality to it.
Yeah.
So it's that beautiful way, like if you look at a piece of chrome and it's silver, and you can see it go from highlights to shadows, and it gives you that sense of volume. He's doing the same sort of thing here with these colors. And just by adding more layers, it becomes darker, but next to the lighter layers, there's a beautiful gradient effect to it, and it gives you volume.
Yeah, and it's right across from the Chase Hobbit Cell paintings that are kind of doing similar things, right?
Yeah.
With Chases are more precise, and this is a more, like, you can see the different gradations here, but
yeah. And because of the effect of the paper, and you can only control watercolors so much, that's kind of the beauty of letting go a little bit of it, because you can see where there are parts where the paper just reacted and soaked in a little bit better or whatnot. There's a little bit of darker areas. So it's not completely perfect, but overall, it gives you a sense of volume.
Yeah. Let's look at this one next to it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, kind of doing the same thing. Kind of it's elaborate thing, and it really does suggest some kind of structure, some kind of something that you might see in the real world.
Some kind of tubing or something. Yeah.
Or like a subway system, right?
What's that?
It could be like a subway system, like your system map. Here's the blue line in the black line transfer station or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Scott Eidelman, I liked his stuff a lot. I think we have some more stuff. These are different, and this is where I got the sense of range.
Mm-hmm.
These beautiful paper, I would call them flowers, that are in these plexiglass boxes, and there's a whole bunch of them on the wall. In there you got wonderful shadows. Don, here's another one. And so these are things that I do think you would be, if you saw them in person, it would be a better experience. I couldn't figure out the name for this one. I had trouble picking it out. So that's why I have the question marks are me not understanding what the name of this was.
Oh, I think it's
Maybe
Pink Narcissus. Pink Narcissus.
Okay, Pink Narcissus.
Yeah.
I'm more of a blue narcissist myself.
So again, meticulous. He's cutting out every petal by hand.
Yeah.
And then these are what he calls his sort of lotus series. They're like lotus flowers, if you will. And the other side of the paper is really solidly colored, but there's a little bit of that solidness, coming through on the lighter side of the paper. And and you can see the natural roll. If you had a big roll of paper, so he takes a big roll of paper and he takes a sheet and he traces those, he draws those petal shapes, and then he'll cut them out, and then he'll glue them together and put them into this formation of a lotus.
Yeah, it's like this paper sculpture.
Yeah.
Very
and then
cool.
What's really cool, so he cuts out the little leaves, the petals, and then he's left with a big sheet that has a bunch of holes in it. Well, what does he do with that? He makes another artwork out of it. He makes a big screen out of it that you can see through. So he's using all of this material all the time and recycling it and trying to work it in a different way. Those are really interesting too. So he's got the positive space and the negative space, he's playing with both, and he uses it all.
It's great. It's great that these artists can be efficient, because the materials are expensive, and it's better to do that. How do you, with your gallery, Don, how do you figure out how to hang all these works? Like what's the is it a negotiation with the artist, or is it just like you get a vision? I think this is going to work this way. How does that work?
Well, my business partner, gallery partner, and I, we found over the 4 years that we've been open, we like to do it a certain way. So what we'll do is we'll receive the artwork from the artist, we'll lay it out on the floor, generally, and then the artists go away. And we decide where it goes. We've had shows where we've had help from the artist helping us hang, but Guy and I need to spend a little bit of time with it to see how the different pieces talk to each other a little bit. So we'll lay it out. And you know what? It's so funny. If you did a time lapse of us, we would look like little ants moving around the room, because we're like, nope, it's going over here. Nope, wait a second, it looks better over here. Or wait, that red one looks really good here. Take the blue one over there. So
it's like trial and error.
It's a little trial and error. It's a lot of fun when we finally get it dialed in.
I think you guys have done a fabulous job with this one, and What was it like when the artists came in and saw how their works had been hung? Was that fun? Or does it take them, they have to like sit with it for a little bit?
Yeah, their jaws dropped a little bit because they're not used to seeing their work, up in a gallery so much all the time, and all the different conversations that go. We like to play with the hanging such that we'll put a Brit Henze right next to a Chase Hoblitzel, and those two pieces might have a dialogue. They might talk to each other a little bit. So rather than just like Scott's here, Brit's here, Chase is here, etc., we like to mix the works together a little bit, just a little bit.
So the works are in dialogue.
An example of like the whole wall. We wanted all those works to sort of vibrate. So that's an instance where we kind of separated them from the others, but it just.
So the artworks talk to each other. How about the artists when you you have an opening or closing show? Do you think these people would have really interesting things to say to one another?
They do. They really do. And they often become friends because, they haven't met them before. I do an email introduction. So I'll send an email to all the artists, one email, and say, hey, everybody, meet everybody. Here's everybody's Instagram handles. Check each other out. And then sometimes they know one another, one or two. But when they come to the opening, and it's a big party and everybody gets to meet each other. I mean, there's so many fun conversations that go on when they finally get to meet each other.
Yeah.
Their affinity with the other person's work,
Yeah, I definitely would love to meet some of these artists and talk to them and get a sense of like what are some of the artworks that that they're responding to from the past. Because I definitely see a lot of connections in this exhibition to some of my very favorite modern artists.
Oh, good. Here's I don't know if you can see, but this is Merritt Spangler's work. She's really interested in sort of collage with abstract art. So what she'll do is cut up magazines and newspapers with print in them, and then she sort of takes it out of context. And these almost have little messages, like little hidden messages in them. But she's a relatively fresh artist. She's new to painting. So she's really exploring different colors and what it feels like to just put ink on the paper and paint on the paper. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I liked hers. I didn't take a lot of pictures of them just because of the reflections I was getting. But they like there's some other works in the gallery that are worth seeing. Also really like those photographs of San Francisco. You and I were talking about. There's one of a south of Market location that you have to sit with it for a little bit to figure out where it is, but really intriguing ways of seeing places that we're familiar with, but maybe seeing them in unfamiliar ways. And you yourself, Don, are a photographer. So how often do you guys do photography exhibitions at the gallery?
We try at least once a year to have a photography show, but what we like to do is to do alternative processes in photography. So different ways of printing and sometimes antique processes. So not your traditional photography, like black and white, take a picture, you print it, it's done. This might be like you're coating your own emulsion, or you're collaging, or you're using an antique process such as cyanotype or Van Dyke Brown, and you're trying to stretch what it is about a photograph, what it means to be a photograph. And that often makes you hark back to 19th century processes. It's interesting. It all goes full circle.
Yeah, well, I think you guys said you located the gallery out there because of the expense of downtown gallery space, but now that decision must seem really, really great because unfortunately downtown's kind of dead right now. And this is just a fabulous place right in the middle of the Mission neighborhood. I don't want to put you on the spot, Don, but I'm going to ask you this anyway. You know, you are 24th and Mission. What's the taqueria of choice for you?
Well, I just went to El Farolito around the corner and got a super taco. It's really yummy. So I like El Farolito.
Yeah.
There's also Cancun and others. There's many, many others around here. They're all really good in their own way. But I really like the salsa verde at El Farolito.
So Nikki, you I know you're a bit mission oriented person, right, Nikki?
Oh yeah, I spent the 80s in the Mission. Yeah, I grew up in the Ingleside, but I spent my young person years as a young adult in the Mission. So I was there when the Mission Cultural Center started and the Galleria de la Rata. And I know so many of the nice Mexican restaurants. So my favorite is called San Jalisco on 20th and South Van Ness on the corner.
Really?
Very traditional, authentic Jaliscan food.
I've never been there, Nikki. That's going to be my homework assignment.
Okay.
For the next art viewing adventures, I'm going to try to get out there.
Right.
Don, you mentioned there's going to be a closing get together at your gallery on Friday, April 14th. And what time was that again?
4 to 8 p.m.
4 to 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you can, I'm going to try to make that. So maybe we can all meet up then.
Many of the artists will be here, so you can strike up a conversation and ask them how they did their work.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier, Don, about how people feel about going to places. But the great thing about your gallery is it's got really good airflow. It's very safe. It's indoors, but it's got a garage door that's open in the back, and so the airflow through there is really good. I think it's a safe place to be. If you need to mask, go ahead and mask. But I think a lot of people will feel they don't need to do that.
Yeah, it's got a nice breeze coming, a westerly wind coming through from the back of the gallery to the front. We keep both doors open, so there's a nice flow of air. And then we also have a 1960s Pavoni Italian espresso machine, and we offer free espresso cappuccinos if you want. Come on in, and we're open Saturdays 12 to 6. And again, come for the party, April 14th, 4 to 8 p.m.
Great. Well, Don, I thank you so much for doing this. And I just want to thank you for having such a fabulous gallery in the city. It's a real treat for us to be able to engage with these local artists in such a great space. So
well, thank you, Rodney, and thank you, Nikki, for having this.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to see what's happening here, just give a call.
We'll do that. And then, this is going to result in a recording that will be something that that everyone is encouraged to share with friends.
Yeah, it was nice seeing you, Dawn. So nice to have you on our program. And I like that we call you Dawn Ross, Mr. Ross. Dawn is such a, you only get
like Don Corleone or something.
A little flair. Why not?
Good, thank you. So, Rodney, let's announce the next art viewing.
We're going to be back in 2 weeks with a friend of mine who's another photographer, Don. His name is Chuck Berry. He is not the Chuck Berry you might have thought of from R&B. Unfortunately, that Chuck Berry is no longer with us. But this Chuck Berry, he does a lot of great photography. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, and I just decided, I so enjoy encountering his photographs. So we're going to walk through. There are things. He lives in the South Bay, but stuff that he's taken in places all over the world. So that's going to be a lot of fun. This is a good time to thank Jennifer, our technical moderator. Thank you, Jennifer. We always really appreciate everything you do.
Great.
Nikki, thanks for having us.
Sure. I'll see you at the gallery, Dawn. I'm going to come by.
Oh, you're going to come by, Nikki? That'll be great. We got to do more in-person stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Don.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, Jennifer. Bye, everybody.